Okay.
Well, it's 400 pages almost, so I think it takes about that.
Selfie with all the down.
Yeah, I'll be If you got any questions, we'll ask him. Sure.
Oh, sorry I haven't gotten back to you. I was trying to meet with, or I met with Jim to know if we actually had the money to do anything, because I got clarification on it. So I'll chat with you about exactly what that is that you the $12,000 expense. And then I had this project that a high school team wants to do, and then Jim's like, we'll take it out of that, so I gotta figure out how much that is. I just want to make sure I can present it to you, like, this is what we're doing for this, here's the contract. When we have time, basically there's $75,000.
Okay.
Okay,
great.
Okay.
Just want to know how what flexibility you have once we run into a roadblock. Do our best.
Yeah, do our best.
I mean, I love having a fun time.
Oh, well.
Got them all cut?
Oh my, yeah, my dad, it was
Every one of them.
very short. Yeah, well, I don't know, I'm sick of getting cut so often.
Amen.
So, I don't really like it, but
It looks fine.
My wife would let me shake my head.
No.
There he is.
whatever, I'll take it.
Okay.
I'm into it, but if you say,
I'm good for that. Yeah, man.
He's got a specific date of November. Okay, yeah.
I've been working really hard on this.
Sure, he may think that they get it. I don't know if everybody agrees on it or not. I don't know if he called me. I don't know.
I wanted to give this to you because I didn't see your last health meeting, and Jacob walked me through the whole property and his priorities list 1 through 4. It's not anything in priority today, but I wanted you to have it because I don't think it was in the packet today or in the agenda. It's basically his formal report. Jacob wants to do the building maintenance.
Oh, I
new
got
hire.
it from the city.
He went through all the property at the golf course
Just my,
and
yeah, okay.
listed areas of issue.
Then we're
I
starting.
thought you would like to see it.
I haven't issued it.
Oh, well, you know what? I know more than me. I just wanted you to have that because it wasn't in the agenda.
The issue talks about air conditioning in here and
Yeah,
heating.
yeah.
The building is rotting from the inside out.
Right, right.
Well, we gotta get something to get that priority.
I agree.
You don't
So,
fix the roof when the foundation was falling down.
yeah,
So,
I put makeup.
that's what I thought he did, but he didn't. What? Oh, this is.
Write it down. Write it down, guys.
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, no problem. I just wasn't sure if it got in your hands and I couldn't get my hands on
Not a
it.
problem, appreciate it.
Nick, this is for you. This is just the priorities list from the golf course that
So I'll just ask.
Right, okay.
Okay. And I mean, because we had budget and we had, well, you'll see their 5-year plan and our meeting on Thursday.
Okay.
It just wasn't in the packet and the agenda today.
Yeah, well, we should extend it.
Right.
Yeah, but I think that's why.
Well, yeah.
So, long story short, I just wanted you to have that. I can forward it to you if you that too. I just want to print it out for Jack.
Indeed I did.
Golf.
I think I did too.
Hold my hands.
Maybe one practice.
I'm gonna knock it out. That wasn't me. I wasn't gonna
7 seconds?
Yeah.
You got it.
And I've been needing
I'm
to call you
changing,
about it
I'm
all
changing
day.
everything I know. I'll change.
Been meaning to call you about it all day.
Take it.
You know, we've been talking about traffic issues and noise issues and stuff like that. Jenny, does easily tune also sound like they're filming the next Mad Max movie every night? Because it's really what town I'm in. And just like the revving, like excessive and the acceleration and the whatever. Like I'm just like expecting to look out my window and there's like a guy on a bungee cord with a guitar strapped to the back of the car. You know, like you seen Mad Max? It's both great and terrible.
Oh, you seen it too.
The braking is the worst part of it, but once that
Excuse me, counselors. We'll just need about 5 minutes.
you know, all the
Oh, yours is commercial traffic. Oh, ours is people recreationally just making as much noise as possible.
No, Jack, you were sitting pretty low. There you go.
Oh, I feel like I'm at the zenith.
Right, now you're the king.
them not moving in, them not moving over.
You know, if I'm considered to be the lowest of the low, there's only one way is to go up. They call me the king. There's only one way to go.
Although it's really slow in there today because they're cars stealing, so nobody's moving anymore.
It's been really good on 21st, like right in front of my place, because it's closed at Hannah, and so the cars can't speed through, because they can only go 2 blocks.
Yes.
And they're not like cruising through their side roads. I'm assuming they're all in 28 right now, so I feel sorry for those people.
5:30 in the morning.
Yeah, I've never had that. Yeah.
Like any just closer, they only in the summer there was a civic vehicle that once it hit Logan would step on the gas. The same car every day about the same time. Like he just had a ramp going up the 21st Street viaduct heading east. I don't think it's gonna happen. You got a Mustang. Congratulations.
Yeah.
A lady was coming down the 21st Street viaduct. Another car was coming across on this Garfield, clipped her back end, collision, and she's going to roll 4 times, ended up in the ICO parking lot. Yeah. And I was like, Garner, I was the first one. I was like,
You gotta work it out.
right, yeah, one way or the other. But I think the healthiest thing walking away.
Yeah, one of our vehicles is a 99 Suburban. We got it for free because I volunteered on everybody's campaigns and he couldn't afford to pay me. So it's sweet. So it's a tank, but we only drive it in town. We're like, "Can we step around?" It's a 99.
Mine,
So
I think I learned how to drive a 96 Suburban. So parallel parking is like
Oh.
I don't think that's how my dad
So my wife was at a stop sign at the bottom of the high bridge, or the lights there waiting for the turn signal to go up the ramp to get on the bridge. So she's fully stopped because the lights are red. Well, a car slammed into her behind her full speed. Like wasn't paying attention. This is probably about a year and a half ago. And she felt the car like move a little bit, or the Suburban move a little bit. So she put it in park, got out, went and looked, and of course their car was flat. And the girl was okay, thank goodness. But like there wasn't even a scratch on the Suburban. She's like, yeah, I barely felt it. So at least I feel safe about driving that thing around.
It's good to drive it clean.
Right.
my mom's birthday, we were heading East 5th Street. Stinson and T-boned us, and it was one of those vehicles like Oldsmobile tanks. And the Suburban door, it was like a semi-circle when it was done. But like, it was like that. It really wasn't that
Rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Counselor Ledeen. Counselor Van Sickle. Counselor Moffett.
Here.
Counselor Sweeney. Counselor Fennessy. Counselor Elm. Vice President Ludwig. Counselor Herrick. Counselor Johnson. And President Grasky.
We have a quorum.
Item 4.1 is the approval of the September 3rd, 2024 regular council meeting minutes.
Motion is by Counselor Herrick, second by Counselor Elm. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
Item 6.1 is report from Mayor Payne.
Okay, good evening again, councilors. First, I just want to clarify something. You see me making recommendations under new business, and so you're aware, I guess, that was a little bit of a struggle for me. What should go under the business by the mayor and what should go under new business? And basically decided if something relates to the function of the office of mayor, it will be under item 6 here. So that's committee appointments, the budget, anything else that might come up. But if it's council business, if I'm recommending policy of some kind, I'm going to be the same as the rest of you and just recommend it with new business and no special treatment. So my report is going to be lengthy. As I promised last week, I would give you an update on the budget. This is not the budget presentation. I'm not introducing the budget. You have a document in front of you of the general fund budget only, its expenses and revenue. That will tell you very little. I think that this will give you about as much information as a poster would about a movie. That said, I'm going to give you, point you to a couple of things so you can see the broad structure of how the general fund budget will look this year. The vast majority of the decisions about the general fund have been made. So barring new information or possibly negotiation with some counselors or a mistake that we've made, this is unlikely to see change. But I don't want to breeze too far past that second point. I have negotiated with counselors before I release the final budget. The next 2 weeks are your opportunity to do that. It is going to be a tough negotiation. This budget is done, and we put a lot of work into it. So I'm just going to plunge right into this, and then I will invite any questions. I will answer every question I can, again with the caveat that the answer could change in 2 weeks when I present you the budget. But I want you to have your hands on this document. I'm not releasing the digital document yet where you can pour through all of the departments line by line, but you will have that before the presentation in 2 weeks. Conceivably, I was just very close to releasing it tonight. It's possible we release it tomorrow if we're feeling comfortable about it, maybe based on how this discussion goes, if we think we have changes to make. So I will plunge in here. Interrupt me if you have questions, but this isn't too much, I guess. First, some revenue and expenditure facts. Let's get the worst news out of the way first. The terminal tax declined. It did not go up. It declined by $143,115. That's significant because the terminal tax is the main funding source for our CIP. So if you remember how the CIP works, we project for 5 years, and we generally project the existing amount of the terminal tax for those 5 years. If it goes down, we project it going down for 5 years. So that number I just gave you, multiply it by 5, that's the hit that the CIP just took. And but don't worry, we've just started. Second, there have been significant changes in the levy calculation. This is going to be the hardest part about this process. We're not going to be able to tell you a lot about what the final tax bill is going to look like. There have been a number of changes in Wisconsin state law, the most significant of which is the repeal of the personal property tax. It's important to note we did not lose that revenue. The state replaced that revenue, but it's a different form of revenue. It's no longer a tax, and therefore it doesn't figure into our levy calculation in the same way that it did before. Just as a very brief primer, if you've forgotten, we have limits by how much we can raise the levy every year. We are capped by the percentage in growth in net new construction. If there are new buildings, new value added to the city, we can increase the tax base by that much, but no further. Well, it's a much more complex formula than that. The move of the revenue for personal property tax from a tax to a state benefit to the city has made that shared revenue and moved it to that side of the budget, which really changed the levy calculation, mostly in positive ways, but we can get to that. That's at shared revenue. We had a different shared revenue law last year that gave us a major increase in shared revenue and then tied the growth to the growth in the state average sales tax rate. I am still learning all of these laws as they go, but what that amounted to this year was a 2.3% increase in shared revenue. So right there, it starts helping our revenue numbers. Okay, what you're going to find in the budget, I'm going to come back to some of the bottom line stuff. Right now, I've added no new staff positions. I know it's going to be a disappointment to many of you. We took a big hit in revenue with the loss at terminal tax because it's important to remember the terminal tax also funds the general fund, and so we have to make much more difficult choices when that goes down. So I've added no new staff positions, but, and this is a very big but, that does not mean we cannot add new positions in 2025. What it means is I'm not funding them in the budget. The city, as I'm going to get to tonight and especially in 2 weeks, the city is in a very fiscally strong position, and I'm leaving a lot of breathing room built into this budget. Namely, there is an option that there are many unfilled positions, some positions that have been unfilled for a long time. We may be in a position months from now, first quarter of the year, certainly halfway through, where if we believe it's in our best interest to hire a position, I could be in a position to recommend that, or to at least be able to find the money to fund it halfway through the year. It's not our typical process, but it would change how we add staff to more of a policy process to evaluating, is this the best staff? Should we do this? Rather than a budgetary staff. What I'm saying is this budget includes no new staff positions. One more but, though. If you look, the way you read we'll call it the big sheet, the projected budget, what we are proposing or going to propose next week, the dark blue line is the projected budget. You see last year, the two previous budgets from 23 and 24, those are the adopted budgets. It's 24 actuals. 23 might be actuals. I don't know that. And then you see 4 years into the future. We have never done anything with those future projections. We just throw them there to kind of show some trends, but we don't put much work into making these accurate. One of my goals for the next 2 weeks is to do that work and have these actually reflect and be real projected budgets, much the same way the CIP projects 5 years into the future. The implication of that is it's yet another way to potentially fund staff. If we don't think we can afford it now, but we like the health of our budgets as they move forward, so please ignore these numbers on the bottom for the future years. If they're looking healthy, you could potentially plug a staff position in there. That will also allow us, if we have grant-funded positions again, it allows us to not create an unfunded position. We can get the grant now, but plug it in 3-4 years from now when the grant is expected to wear off. So that's a new tool that we will have. I'm going to have that ready for you, I hope, in 2 weeks. All right, back to a few more things that are in there. Hope you're taking rapid-fire notes. 3% wage increase. I'm proposing an increase of all staff wages by 3%. That's probably a bit better than inflation. It's certainly, we think we beat inflation with our, was it 5% last year? We're certain we beat inflation with that. And we think 3% should beat inflation in 2025 as well. In HRC, we can have that debate formally. There's a lot of different ways to codify inflation on the local level when it comes to wages, but we think that should. We had a deficit in previous years that was a paper deficit. We call that mark to market. That basically means our investments, because of the way the interest market has worked, we have a number of low yield, high security investments. Think of them like CDs, like you would buy from your bank. We would not be able to liquefy those without a loss. Or 2 years ago, we would not have been able to liquefy those without a loss, and our auditors make us book that loss. However, as they mature, because they're bonds and we were promised that money, as they mature to their maturity value, we gain that money back. A lot of that position, the surplus you're seeing, is that new gain. However, both of those affect our reserve. So according to our reserve policy, that $1.5 million is just going into the reserve. It's just going to serve the reserve this year. So we don't get to play with that. A little bit of bad news, but I'm going to, I know it sounds like all bad news, but I promise I'm saving the best for last. We're looking at the end of the expenditure restraint program. We no longer qualify because the expenditure restraint program was created for disenfranchised communities, communities that have high rates of poverty, low incomes, and therefore end up with very high tax rates to cover the cost of services. In other words, in a wealthy community, a low tax rate can pay for the exact same services that a much higher tax rate must pay for in a lower income community, if that makes sense. We have to ask more of people that actually make less if our economy and our fiscal system is not working well. We appear to have solved that problem. In order to qualify for the ERP, you must be have a higher than average tax rate in the state of Wisconsin. We now have a lower than average tax rate in the state of Wisconsin. In fact, we are one of the highest performing communities in the state in terms of fairness in our mill rate. But that costs us money. Good news is there is a little bit left. We get one final bump of the ERP. It's not as big as the more seasoned counselors are used to. There is a little bit of money. It's in the budget. But next year we won't have that anymore. And I think we should all congratulate ourselves for building great budgets and treating our citizens fairly. But that means we have to act like a fiscally responsible and fiscally strong community and come up with that revenue somewhere else. Almost done here. You're going to get a much longer presentation on debt service or on our debt position at the next council meeting, so I'm not going to say too much about it tonight, except to say that our debt service continues to fall and our debt capacity continues to rise. We have not been bonding, therefore the cost of servicing our debt, the debts just keep getting paid off. I did a lot of celebrating about that position last year, that it was we've reached historic levels of debt responsibility in the city. That position has only or will only improve for 2025. Okay, and that is among the best news. What this all adds up, and I can explain a bit more because this is a very detailed document when you get into the individual departments and you'll get the full presentation. Overall, big picture numbers, our revenue increased by a net of 2.95%. Our expenses increased by 0.63%, less than 1%, which generates a surplus. We were able to, through cuts, responsible spending, finding extra revenue, some strong economy, some luck, we are able to build a strong budget that generates a very large surplus. I have eliminated that surplus by reducing the terminal tax transfer to the general fund for the second straight year. So, as I said earlier, we use a portion of the terminal tax to help fund the general fund. It's just been so hard to fund the general fund that for years we hauled some of that millions of dollars from the terminal tax over to just pay our day-to-day bills. Past councils have disagreed with that and felt that we should be moving away from that. I have come to really agree. That's not, we think that's a long-term stable source of revenue. Well, it did fall this year. It really didn't fall by very much. But if we are in a position to do so, reducing that only increases revenue to the CIP and allows us to make up for that shortfall I described earlier. So that means the CIP will also have more revenue. So we actually solved the problem I described earlier. Another fun little milestone, though, well, we avoided a bad milestone. Had we not reduced the terminal tax transfer to the general fund, for the first time ever, that transfer was projected to be roughly half or more than half of the total terminal tax allocation. We've prevented that. For the second straight year, it will actually fall, which you can see on your revenue sheet, which is the second sheet. And then finally, I just kind of saved the best for last. I am going to propose a decrease in the collected levy for the second straight year. We will decrease the tax. Last year, the tax levy was $12,904,000 collected. This year, I am proposing $12,882,000 as of 6:50 p.m. on Tuesday. Again, the budget is presented in 2 weeks, so it's possible that could change, but I'm confident enough to say it out here in public on the record, second straight year of the levy going down. One thing I want to caution you, though, while I've given you a gift in communicating with your constituents, you don't believe me? Well, I've given you a gift to communicate with your constituents. Please be very careful in the way we communicate this tax levy, because while it is 100% true, if we adopt this budget as is with this levy number, it will be 100% true that the city decreased taxes. The only tool you have to decrease taxes is to decrease the debt service or decrease the operational levy. A lot of this is a decrease in debt service, but it is going down. However, as you all know, the tax bill that will arrive in January is a comprehensive bill, including those levies charged by Douglas County and the school district. Douglas County is in an equally complicated position with their levy. I have no clue. I asked today, but I have no clue how their levy is going to shake out. The school district, as we all know, is going to an operational referendum. The public itself can say is whatever happens to your tax bill, it wasn't the city's fault. The city didn't do it. The city is trying to be as responsible as possible, particularly in this year. I think that's, did I have more notes? Yeah, just lastly, what's next? We may have some final corrections, minor edits, and like I said, we'll fix those future projections. We will begin work on the CIP probably first thing tomorrow. This is the fun part where you schedule a meeting with me, whatever day you meet with me, you can see the budget as it exists that day. We still have quite a few more budgets to complete before we finish the budget book. The enterprise funds, the nonprofit grants, specifically ESD, landfill, all of those little small budgets. We're going to try and go over them all so that they're all in the budget so you can make all of your decisions at once. And then the last thing we'll do is assemble the budget book so that the public can actually read it. It wasn't too long. Your questions, please. If you have any, we can wait too. Councilor Fennessy.
For the oil pipeline terminal tax going down, do we know? Do you get any word why it went down? Or
yes, the value of the terminal actually increased, but the taxable rate in Wisconsin decreased. So basically, Wisconsin decreased how much the tax is collected on properties of this kind. It's a very unique tax and very difficult to predict. This actually happened once before. It didn't actually go down, but it was lower than we projected it to be, and I can't say that this is a true connection, but it did cause, there was an increase in the following years. So what DOR has told us to expect is combination of the tax rate, the projected value of the terminal. We should expect this to stay flat in coming years, but the terminal is continuing to increase in value.
Okay, so yeah, okay, yep, that makes sense. So then would we expect the future years for projected 26 and 27 to go back? Because right now it's projected 4.8 for like the future years. I mean,
you're looking at the revenue line for the terminal tax transfer.
Yeah,
that'll be one of the things that we work on when we look at the projections. Most likely, I will not increase. I'll bring it down to this year. So what I tend to do with the terminal tax is, absent some other reason or an important decision, I don't change a number going forward. So if we project what's the terminal tax number this year, I'm projecting 4.3 million in the general fund. I'll likely put 4.3 million in each of those years going forward.
Instead of the 3.8?
Actually, 3.8. Oh, yep, I'm sorry. I was looking at the wrong line. 3.8 is the correct number. I will project 3.8 in the coming years.
Okay, that makes sense. And then the no longer qualifying for the ERP, right?
Yes.
Is that something that changed, or did the scales just tip across the state of Wisconsin?
No, our tax rate's been falling. It's been falling. The mill rate's been coming down. That's a complicated question, and we're learning about it pretty rapidly. And seeing as Director Reiner is coming up, might as well let him. He's done this work, and most of the time I can carry it. But
one specific thing I want to talk about with the mill rates that's going on, and this is a statewide issue where we're seeing mill rates all across cities come down. This looks at the equalized mill rate. With the revalue, we should equal the equalized mill rate right now. That's what the state says our value should be. But what we're seeing is we're seeing equalized value go up, 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 and we're seeing everyone's mill rate go down. So it's not exactly that we're changing the way we levy or anything. It's just that value keeps increasing, so that tax rate keeps coming down. That's a huge proponent in what's happening right now.
So if everybody across the state, their equalized value is increasing and the mill rate is decreasing, that makes sense. I mean, just the market that we're in. How does that, if it's happening across the state, how does that separate us from now not qualifying for that expenditure?
Because we already had low mill rates.
So we're just quite a bit lower than the rest of the state.
Right.
Got it. Thank you. And then can you just explain the one thing that you said was no new staff, but if we have some slow hires that we might be able to work it in, or we could look to the future like we do the CIP. Can you explain how that would work, or how you envision that working?
Well, which one? Those would be different. Okay, so one option is if we decide we want to hire right now. Let's say there's a proposal. I've usually resisted this because the budget process is a chance for us to look at the entire city's needs, as opposed to the Public Safety Committee may recommend hiring police officers, while the Finance Committee wants to beef up the finance department. And I think to a certain extent, we can still provide global advice. We will still have the priorities that the council created for this year. So if our fiscal position is looking strong in the first or second quarter, and a councilor or a committee says, hey, the fifth highest priority was staff for this department, I think we should move forward with this. Or this is a new idea somebody's come up with, and it's just so great. I think we'd be in a position to say, well, we can afford it. We'd at least be able to say, yes, we can afford to do that, and then we can project it into future budgets. Another option, though, would be to say, we're going to say we value this position. We're going to create it. We're going to create it we're going to start it in 2028. And it would be a way of identifying our values early, so it would have to be removed by that point. But what that does is it sort of makes this cost permanent, and I guess the way I would see that is I wouldn't be able to remove that any more than I would be able to remove a vacant position that exists now. I mean, maybe I can do that. I've just never done that. So that's novel, and I don't really know how that would work. It would be a new process to do that, and so we're inventing it as we go. But we have created some staff positions during the year. It's very rare, or we've started positions early. That's happened. Saying the budget should be strong enough to handle that, or it might be strong enough to handle it. Another option is we pull some money back from the CIP and we just fund positions if the council insists on it.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. The way I understood it at first is you were saying it would be okay to take $50,000 from 2027 and apply that to next year. So no. I'm glad I misunderstood that. That was all. Thank you.
Any other questions? Councilor Herrick.
Yeah, I'm assuming all the reevaluations are done. Is that correct? For the city?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah, the reval's complete.
Okay, so will those reevaluations take effect on this tax bill coming up in December?
Yes.
Okay, so with that being said, I'm sure the school board will base all what they're looking for on all these new increases, correct?
Yes, including I don't know that I know exactly how the school board creates its levy. I mean, I've served on the county board and at the city of Superior, and I've worked on both of those budgets. And I think the school district is quite a bit different. Okay. However, it is a property tax, so I think it's reasonable to assume that it's tied to property value. And but there is also that extra variable of the referendum. And so if the referendum changes that levy, I actually don't even know if that affects 25 or 26.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I promise you, counselors, it's on my list to learn how the school does their levy. Just a lot of other things in front of it.
Councilor Sweeney.
If in 2023 our revenue exceeded expenses by 1.5, is that what you said?
In 1.5 million, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's roughly 5%. So was that generated from excess revenue, or were expenses reduced by that amount?
It's always a little bit of both, and a third mark-to-market gain. So mark-to-market gain is just our investments matured and created value that simply did not exist on the books. That's when I say a paper gain. It means nothing. There was no cash exchanged. But yeah, there's always the most common source of coming in under budget on expenses is unfilled positions. That saves a lot of money. You go a couple months without filling a position. And revenue, even our fairly accurate projections, there's, as you see, the the expenses, it doesn't even fill one big page here. The revenue is 2 full pages.
Right.
I mean, we may still have a lot of work left to do on this. We might find more money in this tomorrow.
Okay.
But, so yes.
That's your answer. That's where I was going with that. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions while you have me here? And again, feel free to schedule meetings. The budget will be rapidly coming together. One thing that will be important, if there's the budget's only going to get bigger. It's going to have many other budgets, and I know many of you, due to your work on your committees or political interests you have, if there is a department, a budget, especially among the enterprise funds that concerns you, please reach out to me so that we can talk about those budgets before I release them. Last call for questions. Okay, then I'll, one other thing not related to the budget. The clerk has asked me to remind you that we have for children 18 years and younger, we have a contest to create a new I Voted sticker. A lot of communities are doing this now. It's a lot of fun. And I believe she's put a business card in front of you to help recruit poll workers for the upcoming election. This is the big one, folks. I don't know how many folks have been in elective office for a presidential election, but it's a rough day. And so if you or people you know would like to serve as an election inspector, you would be doing a service for your community. Okay, we can proceed with the business, which is just one appointment.
Item 6.2, the committee appointment to the Liability Claims Committee to appoint Mark Connolly for a 3-year term expiring September 2027.
Motions by Councilor Elm, second by Councilor Fennessy. Is there discussion? Hearing Councilor Sweeney.
Is that a new appointment? Has he been on there before? Or is that brand new?
He's new, right? Yeah, he's new.
He's new. That's what I thought. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
Item 7.2 is the business of the Public Works Committee with a meeting held on September 5th. Is there a report from the chair?
Thank you, Clerk. Yes, thank you. The Environmental Services Division visited Public Works to give a brief overview and an abbreviated orientation regarding the stormwater flood control program. And again, this is one of the most popular programs, I think, in the city where we will help change out and update residential infrastructure. And this is has a large return on investment. These are really important tweaks regarding foundation drains. So if you're interested in watching that orientation on behalf of your residents who might have questions or would like to sign up, please, you can view that anytime. I also want to congratulate ESD on their Gold Award. They won for their 2023 work. I believe they also earned this recognition in 2019. So congratulations to them, and thank you to Amy and Aaron for coming by. There are 2 ordinance additions here regarding North 18th and North 58th, one by Jack Ennis Park, and then responding to some speeding concerns over by that park and as well in South End. There's been just some concern around traffic pattern changes and congestion regarding north and south travel and how that impacts residents post Quick Trip construction. So hopefully the changes that we have put in place will help there. We also spent a fair amount of time discussing our pesticide ordinance regarding the application of herbicides and fungicides in the city. You, of course, are not able to do that on public City of Superior parcels, except in very few situations. So just trying to get a better understanding of that application, where it happens and how often and what those quantity and chemicals and contractors look like in the city. You'll also see a contract just north of $160,000 to study what is referred to as daylighting over at Faxon Creek. So this will be more complicated than just daylighting a creek that has been encased in infrastructure over the years, because of a large sewer interceptor in that area as well. So this will be probably just a bit more complicated in trying to manage that water and rehabilitate Faxon Creek over in Central Park to be more of a natural feature through that park. And I believe that contract was approved through 2026. And also want to invite the council to the Gibi Sing Minis or Wisconsin Point. There is an event tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Where the Wisconsin Point Committee Parks, the City of Superior, has supported and partnered with the Lake Superior Estuary and the nation of Fond du Lac on restoring the land that was returned to them in 2017. That effort was initiated in 2003, transferred after the surplus was declared by the Army Corps. It's about just more than 10 acres, and Fond du Lac has just now received $350,000 from the federal government to restore that acreage out there. So if you haven't been there in a while, you'll notice that the two residents, the lighthouse keeper residents, those were raised earlier this year. So it's looking quite a bit different. So again, you are invited to attend tomorrow at 4 o'clock. This is a really big project, a really big grant, and partners like UWS and the NER will all be there. Next month at the Public Works Committee, we are going to discuss the Special Area Management Program, which is a really unique program in our city. And I will move to approve items 4, 5, and 6 and ask the clerk to read items 1, 2, and 3, and happy to take any questions about that.
The motion is to approve items for the 4th, 5th, and 6th recommendation of the Public Works Committee. That is the Apex fire suppression system purchase, purchase of 2 hydro gritters for the grit removal system, and awarding the design contract for the Faxon Interceptor and Creek Improvements project. Is there a second? Second is by Councilor Grasky. Discussion on those 3 items. Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The motion carries. Will the clerk please read the ordinances?
Item 1 is the approval of an ordinance amending City Code Chapter 112, Traffic Code, Article 7, Schedule A, stops, removing the yield signs and adding a 4-way stop sign at North 18th Street and Hewitt Avenue.
Motion is by Councilor Elm, second by Councilor Ludwig. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
Item 2 is the approval of an ordinance amending City Code Chapter 112, Traffic Code, Article 7, Schedule A, stops, to add North 59th Street, the following stops at Banks Avenue.
Motion to approve.
Second. Motion is by Councilor Ledeen, second by Councilor Ludwig. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
Item 3 is the approval of an ordinance amending City Code Chapter 112, Traffic Code, Article 7, Schedule A, stops, to add at Banks Avenue the following stops at North 60th Street.
Motion is by Councilor Ledeen, second by Councilor Ludwig. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
Item 7.4 is the business of the Licensing and Fees Committee with a meeting held on September 6th. Is there a report from the chair?
Sorry, I was off here. I was on a different PDF. What item number are you on?
7.4, the business of the License and Fees Committee. Just asking if you have a report from that meeting.
No, I don't.
All right. Item 8.1.1 is the business of the Urban Forestry Tree Board with a meeting held on August 15th. There's a report from the chair.
Yes, I do have a short report. At our August 15th meeting, we started to review our tree planting and maintenance standards and our tree tree permit form. One of the things we focused in on is our tree removal convenience fee. That is, if someone wants to remove a tree for convenience, a healthy tree for convenience sake, of course there is a fee for per diameter tree, and it was suggested that maybe we contact other cities to see what their removal fee is before we make a decision on whether to change our fee or not. One of the newer, maybe exciting things are we found a new supplier for trees. It's a local company from here in Wisconsin. And Linda, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think our suppliers have been from out east, correct, in the past that we've used? So, so it's kind of exciting to find one in the state of Wisconsin. And actually, they have a proprietary way that they grow the trees, which they stress the development of roots rather than the development, the diameter of the tree, which of course we that are interested in plants and have grown plants know that the all importance of root development before the plant grows. So, so we're trying, they're called legacy trees, and so we're trying this new supplier. We have planted some replaced our trees on Tower Avenue, and so we will see how those trees grow, and hopefully it'll be successful, and so we'll have a new supplier from the state of Wisconsin. The last thing is that we do have an amendment to an ordinance here tonight, and the amendment is because we found a discrepancy between it has to do with hunting between our Chapter 90 and Chapter 86, where you'll notice that number 9 in our Chapter 90 says that there shall be no hunting and trapping, and we know that we do allow hunting like archery hunting and waterfowl hunting, and so this amendment is just to make the two chapters match. And then the other is that as far as permitting is required, the permit part of the ordinance read that the permit should be approved through Parks and Rec Commission and then brought on to the council. And the Urban Forestry Tree Board thought it important that any permitting that has to do with the municipal forest should also be run by the Urban Forestry Tree Board, mainly because Parks, Rec, and Forestry, and I'm on both committees, and so Parks, Rec, and Forestry, we're more focused on the recreational part, whereas the Urban Forestry Tree Board, of course, focuses on the health of the forest, how to balance the recreation with the health of the forest. And so we thought that any permitting should also be, that has to do with the municipal forest, should be run by the Urban Forestry Tree Board also. And so I will turn it back to you, Clerk, to read the ordinances. Thank you.
The first recommendation is to approve an ordinance amending City Code Chapter 90, Parks, Recreation, and Forestry, Article 6, Municipal Forest, to state that hunting or trapping of wildlife is prohibited unless specified in Article 3, Sections 86-74 through 86-120, and add Urban Forestry Tree Board to Article 6, Section 90-332 alongside the Parks and Recreation Commission for permit requests.
Motion is by Councilor Ludwig, the second by Councilor Ledeen. Is there discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The motion carries.
Item 8.1.2 is the business of the Golf Course Committee with a meeting held on August 22nd. Is there a report from the chair?
We don't have the chair of the Golf Course Committee here, but I believe Councilor Sweeney and Grasky serve on the. Do either of you have a report to give? Councilor Ledeen, any report to give? Okay, then we'll just read the business.
Well, I can
go ahead, Councilor.
I can tell you what I know. And they're currently working on the budget for next year, and it's a pretty lengthy, sophisticated budget with the company that we have managing. So this is the first time for our new golf pro. So he's going through that. I know that I just got a note, some information from a fellow councilor that the city has come out and they've gone through the golf course, to especially the properties, to see what has to be upgraded. So that's being done. they turned on the water for the first time for watering greens, and I think July 15th was the day I heard. I don't know if you're accurate. I think I'm pretty close to that. So that's the first time ever that they've gone that long without watering. So the course is, they say, in excellent shape, and I haven't played golf, but I've been out there a few times, and so it looks beautiful. Things are going. They've had a lot of rain, so of course that's affected play a little bit, and golf rounds are down slightly, but they're looking to have a good year. So that's what I know from this end. Trying to answer any questions if anyone wants to ask me.
Can only confirm I took my first real round of golf at Nemadji Golf ever this summer, and can confirm the irrigation system works because it turned on while I was approaching the green.
One more question. Can you confirm that you had a hole-in-one out there that first day you played?
I'm not saying I didn't. Please.
All right, there are two recommendations. One is to approve the buyout of the golf cart lease of 100 carts.
Motion is by Councilor Ledeen, second by Councilor Grafsky. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
And approve the buyout of the utility vehicles and beverage carts lease.
Motion is by Councilor Ledeen, second by Councilor Grafsky. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
At this time, are there any further committee or commission reports to be made?
I see none.
New business, item 10.1, I am recommending the approval of a temporary Class B beer and temporary Class B wine license application for the Richard I. Bong Veterans Historical Center for the American Legion Auxiliary Second Annual SIPS and Support event located at 305 Harbor View Parkway to be held from 11 to 4:30 p.m. on October 12th.
The motion is by Councilor Herrick, second by Councilor Elm. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
Item 10.2, I'm recommending the approval of a temporary Class B beer license for the Bordertown Betties for the Emo Prom event to be held from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. on October 5th. I'll note there's a slight correction to the agenda. In the agenda packet, the actual event location in their application is 1401 Tower Avenue.
Motion is by Councilor Grafsky, second by Councilor Elm. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed say no. The motion carries. And councilors, the next two items are mine, but I wanted to introduce both. First, 10.3, I'm recommending an extension of the Memorandum of Understanding with the Superior Public Museums. I placed this on the agenda because this was on the Finance Committee and discussed by the Finance Committee, who made a recommendation, and but because they meet Thursday evening, it misses our deadline for the agenda, so I just put it on the agenda so that we were protected in discussing it. I believe the Finance Committee made a recommendation other than November 1st, but I can't remember exactly what it is. Councilor Sweeney, do you want to remind us what the Finance Committee recommended, and then you're free to make that motion.
We recommended 12/31 or earlier.
Would you like to make a motion extending the MOU until 12/31?
I would.
Okay, is there a second to that motion? Second is by Councilor Fennessy. Okay, discussion. The reason I recommend it, I believe the Finance Committee has their own reasons. We are now in, I think, true negotiation. Well, Councilor Sweeney, do you want to explain what happened at the Finance Committee?
Well, we are in negotiation. The mayor's in negotiation with both entities, and I think he reported at the Finance Committee meeting that there are real negotiations apparently going on now after some lack of whatever happened there. And so we do have to continue that it expires, and so we had to make it, we wanted to make it to 12/31 or earlier so we wouldn't have to keep coming back in case it didn't, in case we couldn't negotiate and there wasn't a contract or whatever before it ended. And I think it ends, is it 10/31, is that when it 11?
10/1, or 10/1.
10/1, right. And so that's why we extended it. Either one is fine as long as we're, but we thought we'd just give a little more time for a couple months. And if it gets done earlier, that's fine.
Any further discussion? Councilor Moffett?
I spent like probably 6 or 7 hours today preparing notes, and I'm not going to read them all. But I have some concerns about how this process has gone, and I'm going to skip to the end of my notes in the saving on time. And my colleagues, you know the benefits of open and transparent bidding processes. Several of you recently spoke about how everything over $25,000 should go to bid. Meanwhile, because we have been unwilling to accept the responsibility of not changing the MOU for years, this has gone over $2 million without a review for the public. We shop around our healthcare for employees. We shop around our large equipment purchases. We shop around for engineering services. But it's been 20 years, and we haven't shopped around our management for the museums to make sure we're doing the best for our citizens in terms of cost and or services. There are several other local history boards that could apply to assume management of these facilities, including but not limited to UWS. In Duluth, UMD manages the management of Glensheen, one of the most successful house museums in the Midwest. The Richard Bong Veterans Historical Center. This organization has already been through a similar contract process with the city and has existing related staffing to the skills that would be needed for these facilities. A World of Accordions. Their board is supposedly recently re-energized. They have experience with managing a large facility, hosting events, managing a large collection. The Commemorative Air Force Lake Superior Squadron in Superior here has experience with events, historical exhibits, and collections management. And the Douglas County Historical Society, they managed Fairlawn from 1963 to 1999, 56% longer than SPM has currently been there. They have a strong board of directors, and they have experience with fundraising, capital projects, exhibits, and collections care. And other groups potentially are unknown. We haven't asked for proposals. I'm okay with the deadline. I recognize that we don't want to lose management of these precious resources in our community, but I hope that we'll put this item out to bid in the public's best interest.
Further discussion? Councilor Fennessy.
If I understand the words of Garner Moffett or Councilor Moffett correctly, that he's suggesting that in an effort of transparency, as the president of DCHS, that we open this up to bid for organizations like DCHS. I find that a little strange to suggest that in the name of transparency that we open this up for my organization that I'm the president of.
I don't see us off base on the conversation. It's all relevant. It's all germane. But I would remind the council that the question before us is merely changing the date of the MOU. We have plenty of conversations that we can still have, including tonight, about the process that we're going to use. But as Councilor Sweeney mentioned, I will negotiate directly with the museums, quite frankly, or anybody else that wants to. And ultimately, my goal is to produce a contract that I can recommend to the Finance Committee and the Council, but as I think you all know, I'm only going to recommend a contract that I believe can pass. And so I hope that I have I understand your interest well. If I would encourage folks to meet with me individually if you have strong feelings about how this should go. If I don't believe I can build consensus and we need to do an open process, then we'll do an open process. But typically, my office has led negotiations on behalf of the city as far as we can. Again, the council executes this contract. The council enters this arrangement. I am at your service in that effort. I cannot make a deal with absolutely anybody. I can only make a recommendation in this case, and of course, sign or veto the final deal. But so if folks have strong opinions, I'm happy to hear those about how this process should go. Absent those, I'll just begin negotiating with whoever's willing to talk. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the question is on extending the MOU to December 31st, 2024. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The motion carries.
Item 10.4, Mayor Payne is recommending approval of a contract with MC2 Collaborative for a final amount not to exceed $106,000.
I should probably introduce this as well. This is the contract. I've included the memo. This was originally proposed by Councilor Moffett in the spring for what we are calling the Climate Justice Grant. At the time we approved that, the council approved it for, it was just an agreement or a proposal that they sent. There was no contract, there was no agreement, but the council did put it at a not to exceed amount of $81,000, which we have now met. I don't think we expected it to meet that, so I met with the consultant to ask what had caused us to reach that limit, and their answer, and they're on the line tonight. Folks have questions for them. Their answer to me was, we applied for everything that we had intended to apply for. So the grant will include the fire hall, Connect Superior, a splash pad or a part of a splash pad, a potentially library parking lot, and an affordable housing unit partnering with One Roof Housing. So that took extra time, which maxed out our bill. So I asked to complete it, as with all of those projects, how much more would it take? They quoted me about $25,000, so we asked for a contract this time to reflect that. And I don't know if the not to exceed amount, the 106, is actually in the contract, but it would be just as binding as it was. If that's what you adopt, if that's the not to exceed you put on there, that would be what we would be held to in terms of spending. In terms of what that buys, though, I also asked specifically what deliverables we still have outstanding. So you do have a bunch of options, and while I am recommending approving this tonight for the 106, and I'll say why. Well, I'm recommending it because what it would buy is we have not completed the library parking lot project, which would be a green infrastructure parking lot for the public library. That that part of the grant is not finished yet. We would be able to finish that. We would also get a compliance package that would help us if and when we are audited by the federal government for the grant administration. It would also assist in the administration. My finance department has told me that that would be valuable. You could approve a lesser amount. You could approve none. If you do not approve this tonight, the remaining grants, so everything but the library, I am assured is ready to go. We can hit send. So again, I recommend the full amount. It would be funded via the ARPA money. We have nearly reconciled ARPA for the final time, and there is just a little bit of money left over, about $130,000. So this extra $25,000 would be, I think, in keeping with that. That said, before we have a discussion, this is the council. So, is there an interest in approving this? At this amount or any other? I would entertain a motion before we go into further discussion. The motion is by Councilor Grasky, second by Councilor Elm to approve the contract and not to exceed by $106,000. Councilor Johnson.
Thank you. Just a couple of questions about the contract. And they're really just minor, I think. In number 3, scope of work, I see amendum A, B, and C. See amendum A, B, and C a couple of different times, but I don't see amendum A, B, and C in the contract. Maybe I'm not seeing it. Maybe I'm wrong. If somebody can point me to those, I would appreciate it.
You're saying it's referring to addendums that
So number 3, scope of work, specific specialized duties. It says see amendum A.
Yeah, you're correct. I don't see those attached to the agenda packet.
So I guess I wouldn't be in favor of approving something that we don't have in front of us. And then back up to the top one, and maybe it's because they're a corporation company in Wyoming, but consultant rights and duties E says they will conform to the rights of the state of Wyoming. I don't know if that matters that we're in Wisconsin. But I guess just a question there.
I don't know. Do you know the answer to that?
I don't think there's anything wrong with obligating them to conform to the requirements of the state of Wyoming as they apply to providing professional services like this. But I also don't know what those provisions are.
Okay. So those are just 2 questions. I guess I would like to see the amendments before approving this.
That's my opinion.
Further discussion? Hearing none, the question is on whether to adopt the contract in a not-to-exceed amount for $106,000. That's a final amount. That includes the $81,000, so it's only an additional $25,000. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Fennessy.
Sorry, just one. I assume the original contract was on a per-hour basis, not per project. That's why we're at this point.
This is also a per-hour process. So yes, the agreement, they'd be billing us per hour. This just limits us from spending more than $106,000 total. So at that point, they just don't work anymore.
Okay. And the only thing that we've got left is to complete the library project?
And the compliance guide.
Okay. And I assume that's not something that we've got the capacity to do in-house?
Right. That was well, what Director Reinhardt told me, and he can say it himself if you have questions for him. Administering this grant is quite a bit of work and pretty complex, and the audit for it would be quite a bit of extra work in the audit. I'm summarizing now, so if you want to fill it, remind me what you said.
So a couple of different parts that are going to play into this. One of the big things is the budget work for this project. And I know a budget sounds like something a finance director would normally do, but when we're diving into the world of these federal grants, it's a little different than that. So example, we know a fire hall costs X amount of dollars. That's not all they're looking for when they're reviewing these grants. They're looking for specific parts of the fire hall. So it's a breakdown of the fire hall expenses. Is it going to have this? Is it going to have that? You know, solar, geothermal, the things we're kind of looking at a fire hall. You know, we got to break all those down. And then on top of that, we have to provide justifications as to why we're doing these specific items. So on top of breaking it down, you provide these additional justifications which need to be specific for that grant. So when you dive into like these grant experts, for example, sorry, I lose my train of thought. They know these specific grants. They know what these people want. Without me spending hours and hours of doing this, I don't know exactly what these grants want. And to be honest, I'm not a grant writer. It's not my expertise. I don't know how to write to those specific requirements.
Director Reinhardt, could you answer as well the value of the compliance guide?
Absolutely. So this is a complex federal grant. This isn't a simple grant. It's going to hold a lot of requirements. Just to kind of dive into some of those, any building product that we do is going to be subject to BABA and prevailing wages. So, for example, BABA, Buy America, Build America, any steel we use in projects due to being a federal grant is going to have to be American-made steel. Any wages we provide are going to be subject to prevailing wages by the contractors. And we have to track a lot of that. So this audit guide kind of puts together those standards of what we need to be doing to make sure we're successful in the audit.
Okay, yeah, very, very helpful. Thank you. I also have a little hesitation approving this where it's not a complete contract, where there's some of the addendums that are missing. Would this, how much would this throw anything off if we just refer this to the next council meeting for, I mean, it would be weird for us to approve a contract that's only 25% of the actual contract.
Yeah, I don't disagree that typically I would like to see the whole contract. I'm sorry, one second there. The two questions. One, we didn't approve a contract in the first place. We merely authorized the administration to spend money with this consultant. So we did that, which allowed us to go above the threshold wherein we would typically put something out to bid and approve it. So we've worked without a contract before, but how it throws back, it delays the submission of the grant, which we would still be able to submit the grant on time, but you can submit multiple rounds, if I understand it correctly. If we do not get approved in the first round, we then submit in the second round, it delays our submission. And I'm sorry, Lisa from MC2, did you have a response to this question?
When it comes
Floor is still yours, Councilor Fennessy.
Yeah, very, very helpful. I would rather postpone this until the next council meeting, because I don't think we should be approving a contract that's only, whatever it is, 25% here, 50% here, whatever, because we don't know what we're approving that's in the other addendums that aren't in this packet. So I'll make a motion to postpone this until the next council meeting so we can see the full contract.
So motion to postpone. Is there a second? Motion is by Councilor Fennessy, second by Councilor Johnson to postpone. Discussion on the motion to postpone. Councilor Gresky.
We didn't have anything in front of us really except the company's information when we passed the initial $81,000. We didn't have a contract.
That's right. We had a proposal.
So we're asking what the difference is. 25,000 now between.
Yes.
Okay.
Further discussion on the motion to postpone. Councilor Fennessy.
The difference is what we would be approving tonight isn't contract that we've seen only part of that contract. I'm not an attorney, but I can't imagine that that's good practice.
Further discussion on the motion to postpone. Councilor Van Sickle.
Would it be possible to take a recess? Can the documents be sent? I mean, I'm not an attorney either. I don't know if I can get through the boilerplate, but is that something that can be distributed, or is that public meeting issue?
No, it's not a public meeting issue. We can take a recess. It's a matter of yes, you have the right to take a recess. You'd have to set the amount of time. And first of all, sorry, was it Michelle, right? Michelle, do you have the documents, the addendum on hand? Would that be possible? You're on mute.
Mayor, I do. I will be able to, I'll just go off camera. I can send the documents. I have all three, and I should be able to send them within the next 2 minutes or less. If she sends them to me, I can forward to them.
Floor is yours, Councilor Van Sickle.
If there's no objection, can we call a recess until 8 p.m.?
Is there objection to a recess? Councilor Fennessy.
Yeah, I mean, do we know how many pages are missing from this actual contract?
Sounds like we'll know in 2 minutes.
Because, I mean, we've established that neither of us are attorneys, but...
Hang on a second, Councilor. So you're objecting to unanimous consent for recess?
Yeah.
Okay. Then is there a second to Councilor Van Sickle's motion to recess until 8 p.m.?
Second.
The second is by Councilor Grasky. The question is on whether to recess. You don't remember if this is debatable or not, do you? Okay. Discussion on the motion to recess? Hearing none, Councilor Fennessy?
Is it debatable?
Let's look it up.
I guess...
just a second, Councilor.
Yeah, I'll
just a
wait till
second.
you. Yeah.
Motion to recess is not debatable, so we'll take a vote on a motion to recess until 8 p.m. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the motion carries. We are in recess until 8 p.m. I will ask Chief of Staff Scherf, as soon as she receives the addendum, to send that. Ms. Keller, if you would send that as quickly as possible to Rebecca Scherf, and she'll forward it to the council. We are in recess. Okay, councilors, it is 8 p.m. I'll call us back to regular order. A reminder, we pick up from a recess exactly where we left off. So the question on the floor is whether to postpone the motion to fund the grant in amount not to exceed, or to approve a contract funding the grant in amount not to exceed $106,000. My understanding is you have been sent the addendum. On this motion, Councilors Grasky and Fennessy have both spoken once, so the floor is open to all 10 councilors. Does anybody else wish to speak to the motion to postpone? Councilor Allen.
This is not to discuss the documents that we received right now, or is that after voting on this?
I'm not gonna say it's not germane. If discussing the documents helps you decide whether to postpone, feel free.
Right, that's why I ask. So addendum A was sent to us, and the categories of what this includes, but it's not limited to these items. Could there be some elaboration from the consultant of what billable services would be outside of the items that are here?
Ms. Mueller, please.
Mr. Mayor, Counselor, thank you for the question. So the definitions are a landing spot so that it's clear when we speak the same language that you're understanding what those terms and the descriptions are. We don't have anything additional for this particular project for what remains that would not be included or described on addendum A. And addendum B, and it might be a little bit, so addendum B also has the fee schedule, so that you're aware of what the standard fee schedule is. And addendum C, just to be clear, is not included because it is products and services that would be specific to defined scope of work, but it's not related to this particular contract, so addendum C is not needed. As you can see in the contract, it says as needed. But to answer the question back to the product or the descriptions, what is described there is what is included. There would be nothing additional beyond that.
Thank you.
Further discussion on the motion to postpone. Councilor Sweeney.
If we postpone this, what is the process, the procedure, and what will we do? And who will do it?
If we postpone, I'm not aware that we have anything to do. I think we just pause the grant process, pick it back up if and when the council approves.
So have we vetted this? My concern is this company, have we vetted this company to the proper, whoever's in charge of doing that within the city, have we vetted this company to know that they are what we hope they are?
We've been working with them since April, so this is just an extension of what it's awarding additional funds,
right,
so they can complete the work.
That's
so
what I mean. But being that's before us, did we go, whether we started in April or whenever we did we vet them to some criteria that we must have within the city to decide that? And I'm sure they have a track record with us from April, and they probably performed well, I would assume. I don't know that. But did we, at whatever time we started doing business with them, what was the process to determine that they were the company that we want to work with?
The administration did not vet the company. Councilor Moffett proposed working with this company originally. He recommended it directly to the council, and he provided a memo explaining why he felt they were the best company to work with. That memo is in the packet today. So it was actually his recommendation. The council then endorsed that in April.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilor Johnson.
Yeah. one minor thing in the contract on page 3, it does still say see addendum A through C for more description or details, but doesn't say C is as needed. So just a small correction there. Attorney, probably you've had a chance to look over this. Did you see anything that was glaring to you? It seems to be boilerplate for you as well.
Right, no, I've had a chance to look over the addendums, specifically addendum A, which is 2 pages, as you see, the fee schedule, addendum B, 1 page, no addendum C, and neither gives me any heartburn in terms of affecting the substance of the contract.
Okay, I think that answers my concern with not seeing the full contract, and we'll support this.
The question again is to postpone. Councilor L.
Then, again, looking at the big picture here, we got to our cap quicker than we expected. Has anyone reviewed the invoices if this is billable hours? I don't want to propose or suggest that there's anything nefarious going on, but just like we got caught off guard, it seems like, and hit that cap faster. Has anyone reviewed those invoices, and does that seem to line up with the work that was done?
Yes, absolutely. I asked both the Chief of Staff Scherf to review, but also the Finance Department, and Director Reinhardt met with me somewhat extensively, and he had a number of follow-up conversations with MC2 about the invoices, and then I had a meeting directly with him after he had briefed me.
Okay, thank you for validating that. What are the dangers of delaying here? I mean, does this hurt our chances for timing of application?
I'm not sure I can answer that. I think that's a matter of opinion. My understanding is if it is approved tonight, we're prepared to submit within 2 days from now. So you will submit later. I really don't know the full consequences of that on either end. It may be completely inconsequential, and we'll pick the work back up and submit a few days after the next council meeting, or it could miss an opportunity for the first round of the grants. It could hurt the grant. I just don't know. Ms. Mueller, are you able to answer that at all? I know it's something of an opinion. Councilor, on the floor, still yours.
No, thank you. I think that helps.
Councilor Moffett.
Thank you. I just want to echo the consultant's comments that we could delay and submit this later, but if we're going to submit it, it's better to submit it early because of all the reasons they just stated. Essentially, this is a rolling deadline. They're already reviewing grants. They've already awarded, I believe last I heard was 17 applicants, but they're planning to award 150 projects. So the sooner we get it in, essentially our odds are better because they haven't allocated the money to somebody else's project yet because they haven't submitted yet. So we're at an advantage for turning it in early versus turning it in later. I've been sitting in on the weekly meetings for this all summer. and done a bunch of work on helping with the grant narrative and adding language into that and things. It's been a substantial project, both for the consultants and for our staff. I think there were some there's some unknowns going into the process because this is a grant we haven't applied for before, and it's such a large, substantial grant with a federal agency that I think as we're going through the process, we just came up with, oh, and we need this little component here, and we need to talk about this component here, and then it's like kind of putting all the information together and coordinating work between different people. And then for each section where you're describing something, there's 5 subsections of that because we have all these different projects, and so it's just a very complicated grant. And I was caught off guard that we hit the budget so quickly on it, but it's been a substantial amount of work, and I hope that we can just get the application in as soon as possible, both for the city's interest and for my personal interest as well. So I'd like to be done.
Any further discussion on the motion to postpone? Yeah, but she wasn't asked a question. Councilor Johnson.
I think this is my last one, and I probably know the answer, but these addendums will be put into the online packet with the minutes of the meeting. Thank you.
Further discussion on the motion to postpone? Hearing none, all those in favor of postponing to the next council meeting, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed say no. The motion fails. The question is on approval of the contract in an amount not to exceed $106,000. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed say no. The motion carries.
Item 10.5, Human Resources Director Janigo is recommending the confirmation of Nick Abraham to the Public Works Superintendent position.
Motion is by Councilor Fennessy, second by Councilor Van Sickle. I just want to add that Director Todd Janigo and myself join Cammie in the recommendation. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
Item 10.6, I'm recommending approval of miscellaneous licenses.
Motion is by Councilor Sweeney, second by Councilor Herrick, second by Councilor Johnson. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed say no. The motion carries. Do we have any public comment? We have no further business and are adjourned. Good evening, councilors.